it's no different than anyone else you see in Scripture, that Saul would become Paul and make such an impact.
Yeah,
and so
you see these big transitions taking place.
It is, and it's a big old setup. And so I just was full of pride and very independent. And I had a lot of things go on in my life.
Hey friends, this one's powerful. Jeanna Roach is someone I've admired from afar, and getting to sit with her for this episode was such a gift. We talk about everything from leadership and emotional intelligence to identity, parenting, and the hard work of becoming who we were meant to be. Jeanna's honesty, wisdom, and strength shine through. Buckle up. This one will be a fun ride. Well, welcome back to Leading Lubbock. I am really excited today. I get to sit down with Miss Jeanna Roach. So, Jeanna, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks, Ruben.
Absolutely. So the really cool thing is I've interviewed a few of your colleagues, and so I've gotten to know a little bit about the Betenbough world, which has been incredible. And what I've loved about getting to know you is I didn't know you prior to the podcast. And so we got to go sit down together at a coffee shop. I got to know your story a little bit, and I was just blown away by the journey up until this point, and then also the role that you play, how many things are going on in the whole ecosystem of Betenbough. And so tell us a little bit about that, because I know that it's something you're proud of and something that you get to impact on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's had so much impact on me, and so that's why I love that place so much. And it's just an honor to get to hold the role of CEO in this season of Betenbough Companies. And so it's made up of that multiple companies. There's multiple businesses and subsidiaries to Betenbough Companies. And so most people in Lubbock know us by Betenbough Homes, which started in 1992. That's the beginning of everything for us, our home building company. It's actually why we named our restaurant 92. People ask us that all the time because it's 92 on 82nd Street. And so that's where that came from. And that's our restaurant and like our cafe, coffee shop, because we love coffee. And then we have the Willows Event Center as part of Betenbough Companies. So lots of weddings and events happen there. But then we also have multiple organizations that have been birthed from the home builder, which are our building supply company, Elevate Building Supply. We have Impact Title, which closes all of our homes, does all the title work on those. And we're super excited to launch Olive Branch Home Loans, our mortgage company, to help our buyers have this really stress-free kind of one-stop shop with Betenbough Homes. And then we have Betenbough Business Services, which touches every single one of those organizations that I just mentioned. So that's all of the marketing, accounting, finance, technology, any sort of HR, what we call employee support functions. There's 150 people that are helping kind of hold up these businesses in Betenbough Business Services, or what we call BBS in our organization. And then we have an external ministry component in which we're talking to other workplaces, other businesses about how God can manifest right there in the middle of our work. And we call that Kingdom at Work.
Yeah. I just love that you got just so many facets that all kind of touch each other in a way and are all related to each other. And it sounds like most conversations that you and I've had, they tend to go towards the Kingdom at Work thing, because I could tell there's a lot of movement happening right now in that ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about like what Kingdom at Work is? What are you guys doing? What's exciting?
What's so crazy about it is it's really kind of an act of obedience from Rick Betenbough. So we are a faith-based organization. We are kingdom-minded in every way. So we have what we call a kingdom purpose in the marketplace. And really a lot of that stemmed from our founder and former CEO, late CEO, he passed in 2023, Rick Betenbough, and he had felt the Lord calling him actually to hand over Betenbough Homes, the daily operations and leadership of that organization, to my friend Cal Zant. And I was VP of Sales and Marketing, so I reported to Cal, and then my friend Corey Lusk also was VP of Construction, like really every other part of it outside of sales and marketing. And Rick didn't know what was next for him. And I remember his wife Holly said, he just looked with tears in his eyes and said, "I'm not the president of Betenbough Homes anymore. like, what am I going to do? It was kind of this identity crisis. And the next day, God birthed this vision for Kingdom at Work, in which we would build one of the current structures that we have here at our home office. It's a 3-story building, and he gave him the vision of this Kingdom Equipping Center where leaders from all over literally the world would come and hear kind of practical truths about how the kingdom of God can manifest itself in your work, and that God cares about your work, that he cares about everything. But man, our work is such an opportunity to influence others and impact them for the kingdom. And so that's really what Kingdom at Work does. We host leadership workshops twice a year. We have a Work with Purpose conference happening in Lubbock in September. And so our board of directors, which there are 4 of us, we spend a lot of our time and energy just sharing those stories, and then the testimonies of what happened in the middle of our workday.
Yeah.
So
It's so encouraging because, you could tell something's different about Betenbough. There's something going on the inside, and I think as an employee, people get it, they feel it.
just an honor and blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's times where I feel like I've even heard Holly and Cal and Kaylee. I've got to meet with so many people
meet the crew.
That it's like, man, I want to know more about this because I want to implement some of that in our business and in my life. And it's like, oh, well, here you go.
Yeah.
We have it all laid out for you. And I know it's not like cut and paste, because and I've heard that time and again from everybody I've talked to there. It's like, we're not here giving the secrets, but we're sharing our story, and how they can implement it and make it their own too. And they go out and back to their businesses. So just what a great vision.
Oh, it's powerful.
I love that. And I've gotten the privilege of going to Work with Purpose. I think it was last year when you guys had it over at Buddy Holly.
Yeah. First one
So
ever.
neat. Yeah.
700 people show up.
Man.
And so people are craving this, and we're just trying to ignite something that's already in people. The people that come to us, it's already something that God has placed in them. And we're just kind of fanning the flame, I feel like.
Yeah.
But people are looking right now for meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
In ways that I just don't recall, even in the last 20 years of being in the workplace. And so what an honor to get to steward that message and carry on the legacy of the Betenboughs. Rick and Ron both have passed, and I was very close with both of them. And to get to carry on their legacy, things that God gave them visions for, that this generation we get to carry forward, is really powerful and has been a big message for us that their testimony is greater today when they're gone, because this thing continues to move. And so Rick said, Jeanna, good thing God was the founder from the beginning. So it continues on. And so here we are,
What a way to put an infinite perspective on something that can seem so finite, which is life.
Yeah.
Right. You just make it a bigger picture than just our, 80 some odd years or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Legacy.
Okay, so want to make sure that we hit on your family too, because I know this is the business side of things, but you're extremely busy, not just in business, but also on the family side. So tell us a little bit about who you're married to, kids.
So my husband, Andrew, he is a physical therapist assistant. So my sister and brother-in-law own a Rebound Rehab, a physical therapy contracting business in town. And they are the reason that we came here, actually, in 2006. They said, hey, do you guys want to come we were in Dallas, Texas. They said, hey, do you want to come? We'll pay for you guys to go and get your associate's degree in physical therapy and then come work for us, and you're going to make 6 figures. And we were like, ding, ding, ding. We want to do that. And then I started to learn what they did in that business. And I said, that's not a fit for me.
Okay.
I've always had high EQ, and I knew that wouldn't give me life. I was working at a PR agency at the time in Dallas, Texas, doing really cool stuff for Starbucks Coffee Company, La Madeline. Had a lot of retail consumer clients and was just having the time of my life and didn't want to give that up. And so here we are. We get to move back to Lubbock. That's what brought us here. So he still does that today, which creates a lot of flexibility because we have 3 kiddos.
Okay.
And this is crazy because this year we're moving one into high school. We have one that's in middle school, and then we have one that's finishing out elementary. And so we're going to get the full range of what's going on in this school this year.
Yeah.
And they are busy little things. So our daughter is the oldest, and then we have 2 sons. And so we do a lot of volleyball and a lot of basketball. And
I can't imagine.
we love both of those things.
Yeah.
We have some that are the boys do flag football, and then their friendships now. They have such tight friendships. And so my husband just says he's a bona fide like Uber driver. That's what he does. And just unpaid.
Doesn't even get paid for
unpaid,
it. Yeah.
volunteer. And so they are just a joy, but they are probably, I would say, the hardest little people to lead, and they get to see us in our rawest, just like our spouses do. And so I think I ask for forgiveness more at home than I do anywhere else. I feel like I'm more intentional at work oftentimes, and can be exhausted, that second shift, clocking in at home. Yeah. Sometimes I'm tired. And so, that means when you're like that, your leadership is probably not at its best.
Yeah.
And so trying to be more intentional there for sure.
Sometimes wish the days were flip-flopped, where maybe you had the morning where it was like family time, and then at the end of the day we all just go to bed. Yeah. Right. You get home and just go to bed.
It's the best. And they're at the ages now they want to stay up.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm at the age where I want to go to bed early.
So you're in 3 different seasons, which is just mind baffling to me, because we're just in elementary, right? We haven't even crossed over into the middle yet. But to have that kind of a spread, it just intrigues me that you are, dealing with 3 different personalities, and then you add 3 different levels of growth in all that the body has in that. Yeah. So what is like of all those, what would you say is the busiest or the most involved?
Yeah, I would say our daughter right now, going into high school. And I was remembering being a freshman, and, you're trying to make your way. I feel like at 14, she's going through a lot of identity stuff. Just who am I? Mm-hmm. Who did God create me to be? What gifts did he give me? It's okay not to compare those. Yeah. And so I feel like even from a parenting perspective, we're coaching her most at this point. And she's the busiest. Mm-hmm. So like we're starting high school volleyball, and that's what she loves. So we play volleyball year round. We're in club. We do all these things, and that keeps us going. Yeah. And I think every day at this point, she has something right now, and tryouts are about to happen. And so it's like, but all through that, we're teaching her so many things about character. I feel like most of it is, we're talking about giving our best attitude and our best effort to things. And we're teaching her life lessons through sports. And so, but she keeps us the busiest right now, socially. And just in our leadership, I feel like.
Yeah, I could totally see it. I figured that's where you were going to go with that. But man.
But the baby, they all have.
Yeah.
They all have moments for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier EQ. Yeah. And you said that you had a high sense of EQ, and want to dive into that a little bit more, just for somebody that maybe hasn't heard that term, or like, what is it? How does that show up for you? Because I think as a leader, that's probably pretty valuable to possess. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh man, I feel like, and I think they've done studies where they say, effective leadership relies like 65 to 70% on emotional intelligence, EQ, versus IQ.
Okay.
And I have seen that over and over in our leadership. Betenbough Companies now, we've got about 460 people, and we believe in small teams and leading small teams. So it means we have 100 leaders in our organization. And, for me, EQ is things like self-awareness, social awareness, empathy, and relationship management. And you can see how those play out. If you're going to influence people and you want to have an impact on them, then you have to have high emotional intelligence. And so I have a few team members that have off the chart IQs, and really most of their development in our time at Betenbough together has been emotional intelligence.
Okay.
It's been on that end that they really couldn't be successful leaders because they were being held back by those things, not understanding how they were impacting others, or, even reading a room. And so I would always bring that to the group. That's just a gift that God gave me early on. They are, IQ-wise, they are off the charts. But that is something that God has brought me. And, you all have, it's not like I'm 100 on all of those by any means, I've had to work on my relationship management skills with people, not flaring up, having high emotions about everything, not reacting. I feel like Jesus, he responded, he didn't react. And I've had to get better at that, to not take everything so personal. I know when Kaylee Rich was on here, she's on our Betenbough Homes team. She talked about, being liked. And that was the first thing that God told me. He said, do you want to be liked or do you want to be a leader? And so you're going to have to learn how to manage this better, relationships, and lean into things that are uncomfortable to you.
Absolutely. So what does it look like for somebody who may not be high strength and EQ and they are developing as a leader? Because what I hear you saying, and this is something that I love about people, is that we're also different, right? Yeah. So the equations never add up just right. So you may be high EQ and I may be high EQ, but the percentages are different, mixed in with some IQ, mixed in with, just how we were
It's a little
made,
recipe of who
right?
we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so for some people that maybe don't feel like they were naturally given EQ, but have a leadership position or desire to be in some kind of leadership role, what does that look like for them to develop in that?
There are so many things that you can do to read, but I suggest this book all the time. It's called Self-Knowledge. And I heard about it like on a podcast one time. Look, I'm a reader all the time. I'm reading, and it's called Self-Knowledge. And so I think you first have to start with yourself and understanding kind of like where you are, who you are, what are your motivations, what are triggers that you have. And a lot of that just depends on too how we grew up. All of those things kind of build on top. They're layers of who we are. And so I always recommend that. And then you got to ask for help in this one. The reason that those leaders improve so much in that is because another leader helped them. And asking for people to help you with that. I'll never forget, I tell this story all the time. I have a sweet friend that I still work with, but early on I would get emails, that there was no, hey Jeanna, it was just straight to the point, and they kind of felt cutting to me. It was not how you would never receive an email from me. If you get one from me today, it's going to say, hey, happy Friday. I'm going to start on the relational side of things first. And then I'm going to get to the business. And there's always going to be I'm going to end that. A salutation, like a goodbye in my email. And this would be like, here's how this is. This is how it impacts it. And there's nothing else. And I remember one day I had just had enough. And I said, hey, can you meet me in this conference room in 5 minutes? And I went to them and was like, asked them a question. I mean, I just always start with a question like, hey, is there something I did, or do you think that I can't handle that? Or do you think that I'm not good at my job? I think that's what I asked them. And they were shocked.
Just taken aback by that.
Completely shocked. Their response to me shocked me. And that was the first moment I thought, oh my goodness. And they go, my wife is trying to help me with this. I'm not good at this. And so I think it takes someone, which means you have to be willing to let someone speak into that, because it is so personal.
Yeah.
When you're talking about those things. But I would still go to this person, afterwards and go, hey, in that meeting, when you said this, did you see them shrink back? Or did you see this happen? They were deflated. And I know your heart.
Okay.
But that's not how that impacted them. Oh, man, so powerful.
So do you feel like when you're in a room with other people, you have an ability to read how something is said or portrayed by somebody, and then how it's taken by somebody else? Are you watching that happen?
Social awareness all the time. Okay. That's probably my highest.
Okay. Because I think there's so much power in that, but not everybody has it. Right. The social awareness is not always there. And so for someone to recognize that on a team, and then maybe even be known as the person who will lovingly come in and say, hey, I watched this happen, and you might be aware of that. I want to make sure you knew it too, because it may have been overlooked. I am the same way as you are. I've got a high EQ as well. Emails, I want to say good morning, and I want to end with, have a great day, and just make sure like it's kind of sandwiched in there.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time sometimes with the way things are presented to me, you know, whether it's a direct email or a direct response, even in person, like, okay, but are we good? Like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
And I do think that even when you're in business with people or you're married to somebody or you have kids, just the knowledge of how the other person receives something, and it's a growth on both sides.
Yep.
How to receive it, how to give it, how to, you know.
Yeah. Understanding other people, you know, putting yourself in their shoes too. And you have to be careful, I think, not to take it personal. I think that we live in a culture that's easily offended.
Yes.
And we want to start there. And I think my default is trust. I'm going to first trust the heart.
Okay.
You know, now there can be a moment where that trust is totally broken, but I'm going to start from that place. And I think that's the difference. I didn't come that way to Betenbough Homes. I will tell you that much.
Okay.
I did not come that way.
Can we dive into that a little
Yeah,
bit?
sure.
I would love to hear then. What did that look like, and then how did that transition? Where did that transition to?
So when I came to Betenbough Homes, you know, I grew up Wichita Falls, Texas. Everybody I knew moved to Dallas, Texas. So I came to Texas Tech, graduated, went to Dallas, like I said, and was there. And so when I came, you know, when you're I love the Enneagram. I love any sort of personality thing. Sales and marketing people, we love all this stuff, right? And so I am an Enneagram 3, and they say if Dallas was an Enneagram, it would be a performer. It would be an Enneagram 3, achievement, performance. And I lived under that kind of covering when I was there, especially when you're in the public relations marketing world. I mean, that's the whole thing. Your public persona is really important. And so you always needed to look like you had your act together. You know, make sure you're the smartest person, kind of, or at least look like you are, sound like you are. And that was what I brought to Betenbough Homes, I feel like. And so it was like I would argue about things that I didn't really even know about. And you're like, what is that about? But it was this need that was your value.
Okay.
You needed to know everything, right? In some cases, in businesses, it's like things can't roll up to your boss because that looks like you're not doing your job. You need to have it all figured out. And Betenbough Homes flipped that on its head for me, you know? And when I would say something like that, they would call it out, you know, and go, what is that? Why are you doing that? And I actually did not have much faith at all when I came to the company. And so I always say it's a big setup that I'm the one talking about kingdom at work, that I'm the one leading a ministry in the marketplace, but it's no different than anyone else you see in scripture, you know, that Saul would become Paul and make such an impact.
Yeah,
and so
you see these big transitions taking place.
It is, and it's a big old setup. And so I just was full of pride and very independent. And I had a lot of things go on in my life. I did not have the best relationship with my dad, and he had multiple affairs on my mom and eventually left. But the last affair he had was with a girl that I grew up in a small town, and it was an affair with her mom, with another girl that was on the dance team with me, and it was with her mom, and she was also married. And so the whole town knew, you know, just absolutely humiliating. And I remember in that moment thinking very independently and going, I will never rely on someone. And so right there, I've just set myself up, you know, to separate myself in a way and not be interdependent, just be independent. And I really carried that for a long time. I feel like, especially into the company. And but I loved people. I loved being a part of teams, you know, as long as I was leading them, I feel like. And so there's just a lot of pride that had to work its way out of me. And I always tell people, you know, humiliation and humility, I mean, they have the same root word for a reason. So sometimes it takes humiliation over and over to maybe bring
transition
you
into humility.
To humility.
Wow.
And so that has been my story over time. Actually, I've had a 911, and in our culture, if you have a 911 call, that is like emergency mode. Like, we have to stop right now everything you're doing, and you are going to have to make a change. And Rick Betenbough got to give that to me.
Wow. So it was him directly.
It was him directly. I asked him one day, why do you think that was you? He was never my leader until 2022. And he just doesn't know what that was, but
Really?
He felt like he was supposed to do it, and I'm glad it was him and that we have that story. But that was hard. That meant, I mean, I remember having to go home and talk to my husband, and mean, I could lose my job the next day. That's the reality of a 911 call is if there's a behavior that's in alignment with that kind of prideful posture, again, I'm not there anymore. And I'm like, I love the work I was doing. I was the marketing manager at the time. I loved what I was doing. We were building this brand that lots of people know now and didn't know then. And I loved my team. The company has always had a heart for generosity. It's loved its people well. And I just remember going, what is my problem? And it was me. And oftentimes that is the case.
Yeah.
We get in our own way.
Yeah.
And so through things like that, God had to work out the pride.
Wow.
And he still is.
Okay. So I want to go back to when you said you kind of like made a decision when you were younger that not to be interdependent, but you're going to be independent. Do you remember that moment, or do you feel like that wasn't over the course of time? It was just you starting to believe something because of a course of events, or was there a moment where you felt like no more?
I can remember a really hard moment because my mom has always been the strength of our family. And she was such a good mom, and she did everything that she could to keep her marriage together. And I remember we had in our house, we had a landline, in our garage, which was where our washer and dryer were. Houses used to do that. We don't do that anymore.
Right.
And I remember like I drove up and she was on a call and I just was watching her fall apart. I mean, just fall apart. And I thought, one person had the power to do that to her, and I just watched her crumble. And really that went on for a while. And I think it was that moment that when I tell that story, that's the moment I remember thinking, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to allow a person to have that kind of power over me. And I mean, I really didn't even know, I think I'll get married, I don't know if I'll ever be a mom even, it was just everything I watched her go through was so tough. And lots of tears and pain. And here I am at home by myself with her. I'm the baby of 4. All my siblings are 12 to 15 years older. And so they were not living with us. And it was kind of that moment.
The reason I ask that is because I think we all have those agreements, those vows that we kind of make to ourselves when we're children, and then maybe into adolescence, maybe even to young adulthood. Yeah. But we see things or we experience something where it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I'm not going to go down that road. So here's my self-protection mechanism that I'm going to use forever. And then we walk into life with those glasses on, right? So I'm everything I'm doing is now self-protection for fill in the blank. And so I think it's different for people, whether it's that one moment that we experience or remember, or a course of events over time that brought this identity or brought this like vow that we made of, nope, not me, or not any longer.
Expectation. It's like that. Where'd that come from?
Yes. Yes. And so now thinking through, like, I think we're at our best selves when we travel through that vow or that agreement and then begin to break it and say, that wasn't true, or that's not my story. So I don't have to put those walls up, or what am I losing by having all these walls up? What am I going to forfeit, like a position that you love around people that you love in a legacy that's getting built that you didn't even know yet, sacrificing all of that for an agreement that you made when you were a young child, right? So
and you know nothing, but you think you know everything.
That's right. So I love that you were confronted with that. I mean, I don't love that you had to go through it, but love that you came out on the other side of it. And now going through, because my hope is that anybody listening, and myself, like, I want to recognize those more often. The vows and the agreements of like, where did that come from? Yeah. And then the next step of like going through it and transitioning out of that into a life that's life-giving, right? Yeah. So you went through that. Yeah. You were confronted with it through maybe humiliation that led to humility. What did that transition look like?
Well, and even just love, I feel like. And the first person I met the day that I walked into Betenbough Homes was this man, Ron. He's sitting there waiting for me, and he meets me and he greets me. And, because really a lot of that pain and, and that kind of expectation that I had placed on myself really came from the fact that my dad had left. and what does a good father look like? I did not, I had this, what we would call an orphan spirit. That's really what I was doing, that I have to do this all on my own. And the day I walked in, Ron Betenbough was like, Jeanna, we've been waiting for you. We're so excited that you're here. We got to we read your writing sample at our all company meeting, which at the time was like 35 people, not quite the size it is now, but still I was like, the whole company has read my writing. I mean, I had to submit that for my job. And then I meet him and he says, my name's Ron Betenbough. And I'm going, oh my gosh, wow. And that began a really deep love. Because Ron and I had a lot in common. So it wasn't like Ron was like this with everyone. Now, he did love really well, but we had this special like father-daughter bond. And because we both loved grammar and writing and sales and marketing fascinated us, like the power of persuasion, for the good of people, affordable homes is a good thing. We're so thrilled we get to do that in the marketplace. And, we fight for affordability so that people can have homes. We think that's an honorable thing. And Ron and I we would get giddy about these things together, and get excited. We're people. We love people. And the sweetest thing is handing keys. I mean, this to a first-time home buyer. There is just nothing that could bring you to tears like that, and I've experienced that personally. Yeah. When my husband was in school, I didn't think we'd be able to afford a home, and we were living in a pretty scary apartment situation, and we got to buy a Betenbough home. Yeah. And so we got to live that. And so Ron and I had this little, kind of like love affair, this relationship that was so sweet and special. That I continue with his wife today. And so I think a lot of it had to do with that kind of love, that can cast out a lot of fears that you have. And the way that people experience God's love is through people. And so when I would ask him, why would you do these things? I mean, they came and unpacked my house when I bought a new home, while my 3-year-old daughter at the time is giving a tour of the home to them. They bought gifts for my kids when they were on vacation. What is this? I had family members that didn't love me as well as they did. And so that was really kind of part of it too, and then those deep moments of 911 calls and, you have to come to the end of yourself sometimes before you can have radical transformation. And so, but it's as much as it's up to me to take hold of that. That's the truth. Rick brought that to me, but he didn't sit here and stand next to me every day and go, oh, that was a little prideful, or that was a little, I had to go, what does humility look like? If there's someone that I know that really embodies this? And I was thinking about people like Ron and Holly Betenbough and Rick too, because Rick was this hard charger. My marketing team in the early days knew him as Hurricane Rick.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay.
Talk about someone who developed EQ and sensitivity. He would come up and he would spin around, and I felt like, I'd just walk away for 5 minutes and come, and the team just is disheveled.
The heads are spinning.
Because he's come in, and man, over the years, he changed so much.
Wow.
And his level of humility grew. As his leadership grew, his level of humility grew. And so I knew I felt always like a leader. From the time I was a young kid, people would put me in those type of roles. I mean, student council president, whatever, class president, all these things. And leadership Lubbock, I led Lubbock's 100th birthday celebration. And it was like people see things in you and then you're willing to do it. But part of it was I had to step into that. And I think that has so much to do with it. As much as it's up to you. Your development is as much as up to you as it is a leader. Wow.
I love that. So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you had a relationship, a depth of relationship with Ron and Rick prior to the 911.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
So love and trust had been established there
from day one
before that had happened.
Oh, yeah.
And then similarly, Rick... Hurricane Rick, right? Had built love and trust with other people as he began to grow in humility as well. And I think the connection I'm trying to make here is it's this love and this version of 911, right? The hardship that's got to come with that.
Yep.
So it's this combination. It's not just love.
Nope, it's truth.
And it's not just truth, right? Because both of those on their own probably dangerous. Are just damage, right? We just love and we don't provide truth and correction.
Yep.
I mean, we're just we're enabling everything.
You're not going to see the fruit.
Right. And then on the flip side of that, we're only truth and we're only, hey, come on, we got to get our act together here. You're just running a hard line, right? And you're not
cultivating
people.
Anything. You're not cultivating anything in that.
So I can see this in parenting, right? I can see it with our spouses, our accountability partners, like who we're walking in life with, brothers and sisters, and just, wow, what a combination, right? To know true change is going to come when only love and trust exists.
And when you're doing that for people and you're a leader, they're going to build the business. When you're building and developing people, they're going to go and build and develop your business. And so that is why it's so important. Leadership, I've thought about this so much lately. It's just, it's not what you can get from it. It's about others fully. And that is what they taught me. And it's how I came to faith with them, And we spent time outside of the office together. We take our people on trips. They're called vision trips in our company. Not everyone can do that, but we do. And that's where I came to faith. My husband, 12 years later, came to faith on a Betenbough trip. And so it's like, am I going to invest in those? 100%.
Yes.
Do I want that for everybody? Yep. And so it's like what God gives us is really not just for us. And that's how they were. That's how they lived their lives. And that legacy under my authority, I assure you, will continue. We love our people. We have some of the best people on the planet. I think Lubbock, Texas has some of the best people on the planet.
Yep.
It's like they're all right here. Everybody's like, you live in Lubbock? It's like, yeah, man, you don't even know what you're missing.
Yeah.
So
now that you've gone through this and you've experienced the love and truth and the journey through humility, does that help with your EQ as you're looking at other people who are, not to say that you've made it, right? Yeah, there's going to still just be journeys that we're going through constantly, but you're also helping people maybe earlier on in the journey, and you can kind of see like, I kind of know what you're going through because I've been there.
Yeah.
And now I know like what it was like for me to go through that and to get on the other side. Do you see and recognize that? And is that helpful?
All the time. And now, the question that Rick asked me in my 911 was, can you submit to this new leadership team? And he called me into submission. And, this, like you do you, or, you worry about yourself, that's not a submitted style. And that's what he called me into. And I have had to do that for so many people now. But I can walk with confidence in that. And then they can see that this is not a way to get them out of the organization. This is a call up into something different. And because I have that kind of authority, I think it's easier for me to see it and to call people into it. Now I have to be careful at this point with my title and where I'm at, especially because we have so many layers of leadership. But when I do that now, I do that with joy and peace in a way that I couldn't have. And I heard once from our friend Leif Hetland, I think Cal recommended his book called The Rain, and he's written quite a few books, but he said, what God has brought you through, you have authority in. And so you can speak into that. And that I have seen that become truth in my life. Sometimes somebody delivers a truth to you, that's one thing. But deliver truth versus discover truth. The power is when you discover a truth. And I have discovered that is absolutely true in every way.
So now you have a responsibility in that.
Yes.
To call it out and bring other people.
Why would I want to hinder their development or growth?
Yeah.
What does the Lord have for them in that? And so I have to make sure my motives are right in it, though. That's the truth of it.
Sure.
What is my motivation here?
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that it's to call them up into something,
Yeah.
And if it is, then I can walk with full peace into that conversation.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like we could stop right here and be like, okay, and done. Because man, there's already so much that I'm like, we got to go write this down. This is great. So now thinking back through, because we've kind of had this perspective of Jeanna before, Jeanna after this whole moment, this specifically, and I'm sure this isn't the only one. I'm sure there's other things along the way.
Oh yeah, demotion, all the things.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure that was fun. So let's take it back to like, what do you wish if you could go back now and tell younger Jeanna? Just like, hey, here's something I want you to keep in mind or know about leadership or yourself that I want to impart on you. If you could go back maybe 20 years, just say like, I'm going to drop this right here for you.
I think I would say that the power is in the togetherness, that's what make great teams, is that you're not going to have all the gifts. And I think that's where the pride came from, is I felt like I needed to have everything. I needed to know everything, and I needed to be the one that held all the pieces, if it was knowledge or ideas, And I have just seen that power of togetherness, like collaboration, whatever you want to call it, but seeing other people's gifts and going, wow, that fills me in. So that's the interdependent now, where the independent is alone and I'm going to handle it on my own. Now I'm like, Jeanna, you don't have those giftings. I mean, my friend Cal he is so gifted, high levels of gifting. And my life would be so much less without him as a team member.
Yeah.
He was my leader before, I'm his leader now. And so some days it's like, who's leading who? We don't know, but we make a powerhouse team because we could not be more different in every way. And so I wish I could tell myself that. I think that would have made my journey a lot, there would have still been things, but it would have been smoother. And I think the people around me would have had ultimately a better experience too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like trying to ride a unicycle up a hill versus let's get in a car that has four, right? And we're all together kind of working on moving this thing, right?
Just
and
so much more fun. And it's more fun.
It's more fun. You're right.
Flat out. More fun.
And I have been on this kick lately. If you probably listened back to the last 3 episodes, you hear this over and over again. Just identity and the strengths that we have. Superpowers is what I've been calling them, that each one of us have. I use ChatGPT. The people around me think it's, they make fun of me now because my biggest thing is I love making superhero versions of people. And just fun. Like, let's put a cape on you, right? And let's like, what do you look like? Let ChatGPT kind of create it. But the reason being is because we all have, I love that you said ingredients, like a special just combination of ingredients in each one of us. And that sometimes I think our ego is so high that it's, I got this, I'm going to take care of it, I'll figure it out, I'll, maybe it is the belief that I know it all, but wow, the power when you finally start realizing like, that's not my strength and that's okay. That's yours. And you have things in your wheelhouse that I don't. I have, and being okay saying, I actually have a lot of skill and talent too. And sometimes that's a hard pride of like your pride being so high that like, oh, I better just be humble in everything. Right. And I don't have anything to offer. I don't like, there's pride in that too.
That's false humility really.
Right. Yes. And so being able to own up to, that is my wheelhouse. That is my strength. Let me take that. Yeah. But that one's not. I think that's you.
And so can you add to me over here?
Yes. So,
oh man. It's powerful.
I think that is wonderful. So it brings in the idea of like knowing who you are combined with knowing who we are as a team. And
celebrating those things in other people, instead of viewing them as like me versus them.
Yeah, it's not competition.
It becomes a celebration, versus that comparison and competition. And so, man, that is such a peaceful way to live. That changes everything. I just didn't have a lot of peace. That's probably really the hallmark of it is anxiety. Stress, you're striving, but when you come to that place, you can just walk in peace.
Right.
And man, you can't write a check for that.
Yeah. Talk about marriages restored, friendships strengthened.
Everything.
I mean, just like that goes so far.
Oh, it does. Everything.
Because I think we do look at other people, we compare ourselves to what we're lacking in often. That's what I do. We're in a group of people like, oh, if only I were that smart or had thought of that or were able to pull that thing off. Or we can look at somebody's shortcoming. Like, if only you were, if only you did this or wouldn't do that, and so it can just go on both sides. It can be like just such a fuel for just negativity.
Oh man. Right? Yeah. Rick told me, he said, Jeanna, just go look for what's going right. Go look for what's going well. And it's because that's not normal.
Yeah.
We can easily, right? Like wrong spot, things that are going wrong. But when you're going and looking for what's going right, you'll find it. Where you stare, you steer. And it's like, if that's where you want to stare, is what's going well, you'll go find it.
That is good. So, I love that.
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
Where you stare, you steer.
Oh, and it's true.
It is so true.
I always tell this story. One time we were all together. We were on a Kingdom at Work trip, actually in Holland. And, they ride bikes everywhere. And if you don't know, people in Holland are tall. And I am not. Now, my husband is 6'5". So these bikes were built for him.
Oh, wow.
And I could not touch. I mean, I would have to lean to a side, and we were coming up on this corner, and all this rebar was sticking up, and the whole time I'm like, "Don't hit the rebar! Don't hit the rebar!
But you're
don't hit the rebar!" And where do I go? And I mean, this rebar is close to puncturing me, and and so right there, I was like, if that's what you focus on, well, that's where you're gonna go. It's crazy how that happens. And so it's just truly, where you stare, you steer. And I just somehow, although in my whole body, I'm going, don't hit it, don't hit it.
Oh, man.
You go right to it. And so that's just true in so many ways.
So practical aspect of this would be gratitude.
Oh,
right.
Man.
In waking up and maybe having a gratitude journal or stopping and reflecting on the things to be thankful for in that moment, any time of day.
I mean, I'm a follower of Jesus, so if I go focus on him, well, then that's where I'm going to be more like him.
Yeah. But if you focus on just the negativity, you could say sin, you could say shortcoming, you could say, the lack that we have in business or finances. Yeah. Where are we going? Right.
It's the Garden of Eden,
I'll focus
it's
on
really
that one tree.
Abundance. Yeah. You have all of these trees.
Yeah.
Thousands. But the enemy, he moves your focus. He wants you to stare right at that one.
All you need is one.
The one she couldn't have.
Yeah.
And that's how we are all the time,
Just so prone to it.
Yeah. And so if we're aware of it, that's the good thing is like when we have that awareness of it, then we can try to adjust and focus somewhere else, stare somewhere else,
Okay.
But
wow. Okay. Good. Powerful messages. All right. So what are you learning right now? Because we're kind of hearing what has brought you to this point and all these great lessons and nuggets that you're throwing out there. But what's the thing that you're focused on right now? What's God showing you? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Just any of that. What's going on?
Like I said, I'm a serious reader all the time, taking in content all the time. And so that one's kind of hard because I feel like I'm always learning something, and especially I think it's hard. The truth is it's hard to lead an organization after the founder owner, and especially someone with the legacies like Rick and Ron. And so I think I am learning to just be grateful for who God created me to be. And that is an identity thing because, at first I would be like, what would Rick do? What would Rick do? What would Rick do? And that wasn't anyone putting that pressure on me. I just didn't know what to do. Yeah. And he was gone. I think he announced maybe the CEO change to the company on December 9th, and he passed on December 15th. I mean, we hardly had a minute together after that, And so I think that I'm also learning to be careful of small compromises. I think that you can start to make small compromises and get numb to them over time, and that they can just steer you in a wrong direction, And God has been just reminding me of that over and over, to watch what I'm reading, to watch what I'm, whatever I'm watching, what I'm taking in, because you become numb to things over time. And so then you're off just a little bit and you think it's okay, but you become numb. And so then you take another step and you're numb, and you take another step. And he's just saying, hey, don't compromise in any area of your life, especially your character. Just make sure that that's who you are. And I think that is how I'm built, to be authentic and just to be authentically me.
Yeah.
And that, especially as a female leader, I remember Ken Jones with LCU. I met with him early on when I joined the executive team, and he said, Jeanna, being a female leader is very hard. You come home and your husband has needs from you, your kids have needs from you, and then you walk in the door at work and people have needs from you. And it's okay. That's okay too. It's a blessing. And so he's teaching me how to walk that out too, and make sure that female leaders are honoring of everybody.
Wow.
You honor everybody in every role. There's this need for female leaders, especially at the high level, to kind of mimic their male counterparts. And man, what a blessing that most of the board that I lead now, they were my leaders, and that they would humbly submit to my leadership. There is nothing more powerful than that.
Yeah.
And so they honor well, and I'm just honored by them, And so how do you honor well? Honor up, honor down, honor all the way around.
Yeah.
That is what I teach our team all the time.
Yeah.
Your teammates, your peers, anyone, not just the people you lead. Sometimes you can focus on just the people you lead, and you try to protect that. You start to self-protect them.
Yeah.
But as a leader, your job is the whole. And so you should be honoring in every direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think have a tendency to have the blinders on, right? Of just what's right here, what's right now, what's in front of me versus the broader perspective.
Pull out.
Kind of seeing the peripheral, like, oh wait, there is something over here on the side, and I can vaguely see that. I should reach out for it. That's
so
wonderful.
important.
Yeah. And then maybe turning our heads too, not just like what's in front of me, but like let's actually pivot and look around too.
How is my team impacting other teams?
Yeah.
Not just me.
Oh my goodness. Like thinking of you, and you say you have 100 leaders below you, or not, I don't even want to say it that way,
in our
around you.
Yeah.
Right. You got 100 leaders, and those leaders have people that they are influencing and responsible for that make it all the way down to when I have a client that I'm working with who's buying a Betenbough home, like they're influenced by you, whoever it is being touched by anybody who is influencing them above them. And that just is like, it floors me to think that our impact can be that big, and even in my life where I may not be a CEO over 460 people, the ripple effects that I have are substantial. Somebody who's just working anywhere, at a restaurant, just the impact that they're having and these small little trickles that they're making everywhere. And just being super intentional about, swiveling your head, making impacts, looking around you. And always, I love that you said not making those small compromises. Like even in the little day to day, just don't let yourself go there. When you have one bad interaction with a client or customer, the next one's going to be just a little bit easier to go there again and maybe take it a step further. And before you know it, you're losing your job because of the way that you treated somebody.
That's it.
So, man. Okay, well, because of time, because I feel like we could go all day, but I want to talk about the book that you recommended. I had not read it, haven't even heard of it, so I'm excited because I love Carey Nieuwhof and his podcasts.
Oh, his great podcast.
I've not read any of his books. Didn't see it coming is the title. So tell us a little bit about this.
Well, this book helped me get through the 911 call that I had. I was VP of Sales and Marketing, like I said, at Betenbough Homes. I was demoted from that role in 2020. And this book, it talks about the 7 greatest challenges that none of us expect, but that we all really encounter. And I feel like it's just as relevant today as it was 10 years ago when I read it, because it hits on things like pride, irrelevance, burnout, disconnection, cynicism. We want to get cynical. And the world's just, it's terrible. It's never going to get better. And we get hopeless in that. And it's literally things that every person goes through. But what I love about this book is it talks about those things. So it talks about things like, are cell phones bad? Is AI bad? Those are all tools that cause us to disconnect, from our humanness, really. But it's things that were already in us. Those things just amplify things in us. I learned that from that book. I was like, wow, that is so true. And so it'll take things like pride. And if you look in this book, you will see all the highlights on that section. And it says, but hey, here are habits of humble people. So if you want to be like this, here are some things, practical ways that you can get yourself out of irrelevance and, seeing value in yourself. And so that is why this book is one of my favorites, because it doesn't just tell you these things like, hey, here's how this can happen or what happened. It's like, here are ways that you can actually fight against, and you can actually be more connected in your life.
So it's a helpful,
man.
It's not just pointing out something to you. It's now, here's how you can move in that right direction.
If that's bothering you, or signs of burnout, that you're headed towards it.
Yeah.
And so how can you fight against that, for your family, for your peace, for your people that you lead. And so this book, I scan it, I'll scan pages and email it to people. And a lot of my teaching I've basically stolen from there,
Yeah. So you said you read it how long ago?
Oh, man, it's probably been 10 years.
Okay. And now this is one that you said highlighted all over, notes taken.
Oh my gosh.
And you're referencing this
still
so
all the
times.
time, because we're still going through it.
Yeah.
These are things every person goes through.
Yeah.
Leaders especially. And so Carey Nieuwhof is he's a pastor. He has a leadership podcast that is excellent. And a lot of really good teaching.
Yeah. Okay. Well, recommend people to dive into it. I will be one of those people on that list.
You've got a lot of books to read.
I do. And that is one of the neatest things about this is I've learned so many books that were out there that I just didn't know about. I thought I would hear the same titles over and over. At this recording, I think there's been 36-ish people that I've talked to. Yeah. And only a couple books have been recommended twice, which is interesting. And then the second point to me is like, I haven't read a majority of these books, which is crazy.
You read a lot.
And I do, yeah. But I think this is great because Cal recommended Call to Rain by Leif that you were talking about. And I went ahead and started reading it just as he talked about it. Like, this is good. And sure enough, it has been as good or better than I anticipated.
Yeah,
so I'm excited for this recommendation as well. And we'll give a copy of this book out to somebody so they can get their hands on it.
Oh, you're going to love it.
So great. All right. Well, I hate to say I want to conclude, but we got to conclude.
Yeah.
And usually what we do here is just, if you could define leadership in a single sentence. I know it's so complicated because there's so many facets to it.
Yeah.
But how would Jeanna Roach just simplify it down to one thought, one sentence?
As you were talking, about just our organization and all of the people that we have, it's like, number one, I never think of it that way, which, because sometimes you can put too much pressure on yourself and act like you're doing anything.
Sure.
And, but I was thinking, I think leadership is probably mainly, influencing and empowering a group of people towards a vision or purpose. And our purpose is very clear. And so our leaders, they actually have to sign a document in which says that they are in alignment with our purpose.
Wow. Okay.
And that's how we're going to move forward as an organization. And so it's taken all those different personalities, all those different, ingredients that we have even within our people and bringing them together, but to head one direction, and we have one purpose, and everything that we do is in alignment with that. And that's our first filter for things, and bringing a bunch of personalities and people and from all the things that we carry in with us and to head one direction is just not easy. It's not easy. But man, it's so worthy. So worthy.
I love it. So the main words there, influencing and empowering. And love that because you're not influencing and empowering necessarily all of Lubbock, right? You're not going out every day and just, getting on a megaphone and talking to the whole city and saying, hey guys, listen up. This is Jeanna's word of the day. Yeah. But you're saying you're very intentional with the people who you're surrounded with. And in the moments, even like this, very intentional about where you are, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not making small compromises, leaning into humility, leaning into what can I learn from this? What can they learn from this? What are their strengths? Like I can just see all of what we talked about getting unpacked through the lens of just being an influence, right? And empowering those people around me. So I love that. I can see it from a distance from the outside, and even having spoken with all of your cohort there and getting just a wonderful opportunity to sit down with so many people who
They're amazing.
are leading this organization. It has been so fun for me to get like a glimpse. I almost feel like an undercover investigator, or like not undercover, but going in and doing this big report on Betenbough because I've interviewed so many people there now,
which is so cool.
But I'm just like more and more fascinated by you guys and the leadership and the really even the imperfections that existed along the way. To get to where you guys are, because sometimes people can just say like, how did they do it?
Yeah.
What do I do? You know, and it just becomes a doing thing, but it's not. It's
you just be,
and
then you learn in the valleys.
That's right.
Not the mountaintops.
Yeah, and then you pivot. We're just like take it a day at a time, pivot again, and overcome this one. And so you guys have done it well. You are incredible. I think that Betenbough is just so blessed to have you in the seat that you're in.
I feel the same way.
And even down to the clients that I'm working with, who are working with Betenbough as well to build their homes or to buy an existing home. And so it's my first home was actually a Betenbough home, and we still have it today. And so it's really neat that it's just come full circle and get to see where, you know, the inner workings.
What a cool thing that we get to do every day for our work.
It is. Yeah, it is. So thank you again for being here.
Appreciate
it was
you.
A blast getting to talk to you, and I'm excited to get this out to everybody.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.